everybody, how are you? And welcome to the Drum Kit Room. I want to kick this room off with what should be the obvious first thing we're going to talk about regarding a drum set, and that's setting up the drum set. There's a reason I want to talk about this. Drum sets are predominantly set up wrong. They are. The reason drum sets are predominantly set up wrong is because when drummers originally sat behind the drum set, the full set to play, they were playing in traditional grip. Not going to get into that right now, but in this position, they set the drums up a specific way for the way they were positioned. That doesn't work anymore. It's an unbalanced position behind the set. We've fallen into so many bad habits with our setup. I want to go over a few things with you right now that might help you understand the issues and mistakes going on behind the drum set, and they might help you make some adjustments behind your set that might make you feel a little better. Okay, now I have right here a bass pedal pad, a hi-hat stand, and a snare drum that's in the typical positions when somebody sets up their drum set. So if I'm all the way over here, my bass drum is straight. This line right here, let's use this line as the reference point, as the front of the stage for conversation's sake. That line will represent the straight line at the front of the stage. What's happened is drummers, because for some reason the name on a bass drum or just stage aesthetics have gotten to the point, and we always have been there pretty much, where we want the front of our bass drum looking straight out at the crowd. Because of this, it makes the pedal straight. But what also has happened is drummers want to face the crowd as well. We don't want to be facing the side of the stage. So this bad posturing and bad positioning, behind the set has happened. Look what I mean. Here's the front of the stage. My bass drum is straight. Here is my foot. My snare drum, which should be centered in between me, now has to be pushed off to the side a little so my knee has space here, okay? Because if I bring my foot out, if I bring the bass pedal out further straight, I start getting this weird angle with my foot. So for comfort's sake, let's put our bass drum back over here, but nice and straight so the audience can see my pretty logo. Now I've got my foot on here. So I've got to now just take my snare and tweak my snare just a little so my knee's not hitting it and it's not annoying me. Now my hi-hat stand, you know, when we look online and we look at most drummers, their hi-hat stand is somewhere in line with usually like the center portion of their snare drum. So we put our hi-hat in that position, and then we put our feet like this. So we've got one foot here, we've got one foot like this. Then I put the sticks in my hand and I go, okay, this is good here on the snare, and this is here. And I'll put a tom here, and I'll put a tom here, and I'll come around the set in all these weird angles. When this right here, this angle and this angle is the mistake. It does not matter what the front of the stage looks like. It does not matter if somebody in your band says, oh man, that pretty little logo has to be facing the crowd. If your bass drum must be straight in linear line with the front of the stage running parallel with the stage or your platform, if you have to have it like this, then what you need to do is turn yourself so your feet are going to be even. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to readjust everything behind your set. Now, since I am the drummer and I am the real instrument, drums are only wood, metal, and mylar. It's an acoustic sound that is only made by how I think and how I feel and how I approach and hit the drum. An acoustic drum is only an interpretation of you, okay? Of what you're trying to say. So since I'm the instrument, I want to be in front of the stage. I want to look out and I want to see the audience. I want to be centered with the camera. Centered. Centered. Let's forget the camera. Let's forget the stage. Let's forget the bass drum and think of that word I just said, centered. Let's get this out of the way for now, and let's pick this up and get this out of the way. As a matter of fact, let's get it all out of the way for 1 second, and let's take a look at this. I'm up, I'm down. Now, does it make sense for me to put this foot like this foot like this, put my arm like this and put my other arm like this and play drums like this. Now, it works. It works because we have conditioned ourselves for so long to play like this. We've set our drum sets up based on two-dimensional pictures we've seen on albums and magazines back in the day. And now we base our drum set setups on camera angles we're seeing in videos, which is absolutely the most ridiculous thing to do. You can't set your drum set up based on how somebody else is doing it on a video. First of all, you're not that person. It's personal ergonomics. Second of all, you have to take into consideration camera angles and optical illusions. It is not a good way to set up your drum set. You set your drum set up by how you feel. Let those be the guideline or basic concept for how you set up your set, but you have to set it up for you. So for me, when I sit down like this just does not feel good. This feels ridiculous to me. It actually feels like I'm Charlie Chaplin walking down the street like this, okay? When I sit down and I put my butt down and I lift my feet up and I put my feet down, my feet are not like this. I'm not like skiing. My feet are not straight ahead. When I lift my feet up and I put them down, they follow the angle of my knee. If my legs are straight like this, my feet are straight. If I pick my knee up and I put it out, my foot should follow the meridian line of my leg, straight up, okay? We're talking balance and centering yourself behind your drum set. So one more time, I pick my feet up, I put them down. Wow, look at that. Now let me move around a little, dance a little, move around, and stop. Look, there you go, even. My butt's even, my feet are even, okay? So if I take my bass pedal now and I put it right where my foot is, there, and I take my hi-hat stand and put it right where my foot is, there, okay? That feels pretty good. A little closer, we'll get there in a second, right? And this is just using skeleton parts here, a pad and a little hi-hat and, stand, just a mock-up to demonstrate this. But let's get this stuff in. So now look, I've got room here. These are only 10-inch hi-hats. So you have to imagine they'd be about 14-inch hi-hats, about 4 inches bigger. Okay, so you can see my hi-hat is now more in front of me. My snare drum is centered with me. My feet are at a natural angle. So when I'm sitting now at the set, it's right. Now I can bring my hi-hat and I can bring my legs in. I've got this room, but also I'm nice and clear. I've got plenty of room here. I'm not going to be rubbing and hitting my knee against my snare drum. My hi-hat legs, same thing. And as I mentioned, this is a 10-inch hi-hat, and I play with 13 and 14-inch hi-hats. I vary between the two, so that's fine. And if I have to pick it up and move it in, I do. Now, this would be similar to a double bass setup. You know what I mean? If you think about it, back in the day, how the drummers on stage, when they had a double bass drum setup, they were the center of attention pointing out and their bass drums went out. It's a natural setup. If we take one bass drum away, you still want to be just as balanced. So your bass drum should be set at an angle. Again, if you want your bass drum pointing forward on the stage, that's okay. But what you have to do is take this entire setup and move it so your bass drum is forward. But now your center is going to be pointing out at an angle. Don't worry about it. You could just turn and look at the crowd. It's going to be the same thing. If you're playing like this, it's like, hey, everybody, how you doing? Don't worry about you. The crowd's going to be watching you. You don't need to watch the crowd. So again, if you want your bass drum centered, you're at this angle. The entire setup, snare included, all have to shift this way. With you as well. Even your stool. See, my position of my stool would even be different, okay? So keep that in mind. But try this, humor me. When you're done watching this, go behind your drums. Look at your feet position. See how uneven and how odd they are. See how weird they are. And then just take your bass drum and angle it out just a little bit differently. Move your hi-hat stand a little up further so you're not here and running into those issues where you're clacking because your ghost note development's not good or your wrist development or left hand is still a little weak and you're still clacking sticks. Move that up ahead a little. And the other thing is when your hi-hat stand is all the way back here like this, and you want to bring your left hand up, you have to really bring your left hand all the way out and up. When the hi-hat stand is back in this normal position where your feet are even, it's natural. It's a effortless movement. It is the path of least resistance. Your body is more balanced. It's in a more comfortable position. It's easier to move around like this than it is to move around like this. Argue it with me. Now again, people are going to go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the way to set it up because of this and this. You're basing it on old tradition. You're basing it on guys who walked off the battlefield like this, sat behind their drum sets, and set everything up based on their hand like this. So check out your drum set, see how your drum set is set up, see if it's comfortable for you, and remember, ergonomics is a big myth. Ergonomics is personal. What is ergonomically good for that person might not be ergonomically good for me. What's ergonomically good for somebody who's 300 pounds and 5'1" is not going to be ergonomically good for somebody who's 6'2" and 180 pounds. So let's take ergonomics and throw it away. It's symmetry, it's balance, it's comfort, and it's natural movement. It's common sense and it's logic. All right, everybody, I will see you next time. This is the first part of setting up the drum set. Next time I see you, we will have drums in place, bass drum, snare, and hi-hat, and we'll start working with that stuff right there, okay? Everyone, have a great day, and one more time, take a look. The direction of your knee and thigh is where your foot should go. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.